in Brunswick and Ontario. From student politics, Kris went on to serve in political campaigns on both federal and provincial levels, using his abilities to promote values that strengthen our communities, families, and society. He is currently the Deputy Mayor in the Village of Moncton. As co-founder and leader of the People's Alliance, Kris believes in taking that which is broken and making it better. We look forward to hearing what he has to say. Please join me in welcoming Kris.
Thank you, Murray. I want to take this time to thank each of you for the opportunity to be here. Current President Steve, I appreciate that. President-elect Chad. I realize that in the political field we're the new guys on the block, and we've got some work to do to get our message out and let people know what we stand for and why we stand for it. Without question, I think it's common knowledge that New Brunswick is facing some very serious challenges. There's no doubt that with the state of the economy and often the divide that we find even in partisan politics, that while partisan politics is important, sometimes it can be somewhat detrimental to how we move forward as a province. With the current provincial debt of $11.6 billion, you and I each bearing about $15,500 of that on ourselves, as well as every other New Brunswick citizen, things must change. We as a province, with a deficit, projected deficit in 2014 this year of $391 million, it is becoming more apparent that governments are spending more time using their Visa to pay off the MasterCard without actually tackling the problem. As such, the People's Alliance is a party that is built on reforming the political system and tackling some of our greatest economic barriers to prosperity. We were formed in 2010, the summer of 2010, with the sole purpose of bringing representation back to politics and to the people. It seems that our current political system, MLAs are often hamstrung to actually represent the constituents that elect them, and instead become nothing more than messengers back to their ridings. The People's Alliance is built on the core value of free vote. We want people to have power back and their MLAs to be free to represent those that elect them. As such, through this free vote concept, we are convinced that the culture of politics can change in New Brunswick with more open-mindedness, creative ideas, and working together to unify this province and tackle the challenges that we face and the solutions that we can find through that free vote concept. I'm just going to take a few moments and I guess go over a couple of the policies. I had an hour and a half planned here, but I'm told I'm only given 20 minutes. I'm just kidding, by the way. I've never talked for an hour and a half in my life. But just a few of the ideas that we have put forward as a party. Again, we were formed in 2010. It was about the same time that the Graham government was looking to sell NB Power to Hydro-Quebec. And as a party, we opposed that idea. We feel that despite the debt that we even had at that time, that to lose our public utility would be detrimental to the future of our province. Therefore, we were formed with the concept, again, of free vote. And we looked at the example of Stuart Jameson, who at that time was a Liberal MLA who had reservations about the sale of NB Power. And when he spoke his mind, he was removed from caucus. And we just do not feel that that is a true democratic sense of how things should be done in a democratic society. We believe when it comes to the economy that it's government's responsibility to turn its attention to create a level playing field for small and medium-sized businesses. Tax subsidies, forgivable loans and grants to large corporate interest has failed time and time again, with less than a 30% success rate, according to Invest New Brunswick. People's Alliance believes in lower taxes, less regulation, and startup incentive, all focused on small and medium businesses, can begin to change the economic outlook for this province. As a party, we have supported the Trans-Canada Pipeline coming into New Brunswick, even calling for the possibility of a feasibility study to have a second refinery in the north to maximize the amount of bitumen that will be coming into our province in the near future. With proper regulations, fair royalties, and environmental restrictions, as a party we would also take the future of hydraulic fracturing and give it to the hands of the people, allowing them to have their say on whether we proceed or not through a referendum. It is also well known that we as a province have the highest ratio of civil servants to population. Yet, essential services are still lacking throughout various areas of New Brunswick. To address this, we would put more emphasis on frontline delivery of service, streamlined administration, and we believe we must reduce red tape. I think when we talk about the economic outlook of New Brunswick, when we talk about changing the way the system operates, it's very important that there's a higher level of transparency and accountability for our elected officials. Way back in 2010, 4 years ago, when we were first formed, we've been calling for MLA expenses to be posted online and for attendance records to be kept for each sitting MLA when the legislature is open. I was shocked to find out when we went to the clerk of the legislature to get the attendance record of MLAs that have attended the House during that sitting, that she looked at me and said, "We do not keep records of the MLA's attendance." We believe that is a necessity. We also believe it's a necessity to have the transparency of expenses to be posted online, because at the end of the day, it is your tax dollars and mine that pay for the MLAs and their needs to do their job. We also believe that political parties should be held accountable for making empty and often manipulative promises that they fail to deliver on within their term. An erosion of ethical campaigning during election time has created a society of low voter turnout and cynical citizens. We believe that it must be a change in the way that we do politics, that we only look at things that we can achieve, that we focus on the policy rather than simply throwing money out to buy votes. When it comes to equality and the cultural gap that we often see in New Brunswick, we believe that it's important that we look at every aspect of our language fairness and equality in this province. I believe that throughout the years there has been a division caused in our society, in our province, by a lack of sometimes common sense when it comes to hiring and policy. We believe firmly that both French and English should be served in the language of their choice. However, we believe that it should be done in a way that numbers warrant and that demographics can back up. We also believe that in New Brunswick, ending duality would be a way to save taxpayers money and help reinvest that money into the economy. For example, we would merge Vitalite Health Authority and Horizon into one bilingual health authority, saving over $60 million annually and providing services to all New Brunswickers. We believe in a free enterprise, private industry, and that government should not play any role in mandating the OLA to private business. We believe successful businesses understand their customer base, and it is up to them, and them alone, to decide how they advertise and what services that they would choose to offer. We as a party would fight as diligently for the unilingual francophone businesses as well as unilingual anglophone ones, because it's less about language and more about the principle of freedom of business owners to choose how they conduct business. Being here for 4 years and continuing to grow and reach out to small and medium-sized businesses and the everyday people of this province, we are gaining support through that process. We have a full provincial infrastructure with a full board and executive. We currently have 4 nominated candidates. One is here with me today. Maybe I should introduce the gentlemen that are with me. Joel McIntosh is our candidate for Kent South. And Matt McKenzie is our membership coordinator, as well as our IT guy that looks after the website and our social media campaign. I do want to say that I understand we're a new party, but we're always looking for ways to grow. And, you know, as a leader, I've always stressed to the executive and to the board and to the members that we have to be as open to change as we expect government to change. And as such, you know, we've had open forums in terms of policies. Coming up here this week, we have our annual general meeting and our policy conference on the 28th and 29th in Mactaquac. And it stems from 2010, which we opened the doors and we allowed people really of all stripes to come in, give us their ideas, and implement some of their policies in the membership, allowing a vote to whether to proceed with those specific policies or not. We are always open to ways to bring New Brunswick back to fiscal management and to break the sometimes self-serving interest of a two-party system. Our ultimate goal as a party is to bring government back to the people, to have an open and fair process by which people's voices can be heard through their elected representatives the way it was originally meant to be. That's all that I have for you today. I don't know if we're opening it up to questions, but does anybody have any questions or inquiries for me today? I don't think I was that good.
Okay, if you were to form the government, what type of measures would you take to address the provincial deficit?
Well, the first thing we would do is realize there's some challenges that have to be met on an administrative side. Again, New Brunswick has one of the highest civil service ratios to population. So we do believe there has to be some cuts in the top level of civil service while trying to streamline the frontline service. We also believe, again, in bringing New Brunswick together through merging the two health authorities. If we take Vitalite and Horizon and we merge them together without closing hospitals, keeping everything under one health authority, there's an estimated savings of about $60 million annually. We also believe in reaching out to new businesses. We've come up with a plan that if we were to form government, that we would give a 3-year tax break to any new business startup in the province of New Brunswick. And over the course of the 5 years, by year 5, they're paying the same tax that other businesses in New Brunswick would be paying before the 3 years. So we've got tax breaks. We also believe in again, merging the health authorities, streamlining the civil service, and having MLAs lead by example by taking their pensions from what they are now to more of an RRSP style pension plan that could be rolled over when they return to the private sector after they've left office.
Would you raise taxes?
Our goal would not be raise taxes. Raising taxes can oftentimes have a negative effect because you're not going to get the same flow of money if people are paying higher taxes. So we believe if you can streamline the service from a civil service level, we take things like, for example, Efficiency New Brunswick. We would merge that under NB Power and have cost-saving measures there. You know, there's other departments that we would look at. We would look at need. I guess as a party, we believe that government has to get back to the basics of governing. Things like education, roads, basic infrastructure, health, and create a level playing field for businesses to be able to thrive and grow. Governments in the past have been guilty of seeming to want to stay afloat or prop up large industry, and we can see it just hasn't worked. So we have to change our focus back to small and medium-sized business, give a level playing field and even lower taxes for the business startups and businesses that are currently in New Brunswick.
If you are not going to increase taxes, how are you going to encourage New Brunswickers to come back to New Brunswick to support New Brunswick?
Well, I think there has to be opportunity. And again, I think it's about the culture of how we look at the economy and businesses in New Brunswick. The amount of money that we spend every year as taxpayers towards, again, big industry, without seeing the full results of it, and at best, it's to save a few jobs rather than, laying off more people. But if we change that structure from large industry, take some of the subsidies and tax breaks that we're giving to large industry, lower the taxes for small and medium-sized business, reduce the regulation, try to cut through the bureaucracy that small businesses often face in growing in New Brunswick, we believe that things can turn around. Again, if we have the Trans-Canada Pipeline coming in the St. John refinery, I think there's still something like 60 to 70% that's going to be exported out of New Brunswick. So we've come up with an idea saying, why don't we look at a feasibility study on a second refinery, possibly in the north, to take the oil that we're exporting and having it value added and refined right here in our own province. It's got to be kind of a shift in how we look at what we have and what we can do with what we have to see growth.
I'd be interested in knowing how you arrived at the figure of 60 million with the merger of Integrity and Horizon.
It's based on top-level administrations in both health authorities. And a lot of it is, I'll be honest with you, it's somewhat guesswork. And the reason is because we can't find accurate numbers when it comes to duality in the province of New Brunswick. There's some discrepancies on exactly what is it costing us to have dual health services, dual education systems, but we know there are significant expenses there. And again, I want to stress that when I talk about merging health authorities, we certainly aren't talking about closing English hospitals or closing French hospitals. These hospitals will continue to operate, but they will do so under one unified health authority rather than the two that we currently have.
Are you suggesting as well collapsing the two school districts, or not the two districts, but the Anglophone, the Francophone school systems in the area?
We understand there's more constitutional issues with that one, with education, because education is enshrined in the Constitution. So we do understand there's some problems in that area. But I'll give you an example. My son's 8 years old. He started grade 3. Back last year, I received a letter from the Department of Education asking if I wanted my son enrolled in French immersion, which I was more than happy to do. I wanted him enrolled in French immersions because I realized we live in a bilingual province and a bilingual country. So I did. I filled out all the paperwork to say yes, I would like him enrolled in French immersion. Well, when the school year came around, I sent my son off to the bus that morning, and he came home and I said, well, what did you think of the French immersion class? And he kind of looked at me funny. He said, well, we didn't take French. And when I did some digging with the school and in the school district, we come to find out it wasn't offered. So, we have to be careful that if we call ourselves a bilingual province, which we are, that we offer the same opportunities for education to be bilingual for our children as they come up through the school system. So, when we talk about merging the health authorities, we believe that's a good plan. Again, it would be a bilingual health authority at the end of the day. It would save money. But in terms of education, we have to do it better, offering that second language training to both English and French. Thank you.
What is your impression of the fact that it is easier for our children to get jobs if they speak French rather than if they only speak English? That to me sounds ridiculous, because if you're bilingual, you should be able to be employed whether you speak English or French.
Mm-hmm. I want to make sure I understand your question right. What's that? No? Do you mean in the private sector or within government?
Both.
Okay. When it comes to the private sector, as a party, we believe government should be hands-off when it comes to language. If a business chooses to advertise in French, they can advertise in French. If they want to, offer service in German, that should be their right. Government should not be involved in that. In terms of government hiring within the civil service, it should be based on demographics. For example, in Charlotte County, you have less than 2% of a Francophone population. Yet the current model of hiring within government would mandate a 50% bilingual staff for Charlotte County. So we know the statistics, we have the demographics, And we believe that hiring should be based on those statistics and demographics to create a level playing field. Look, since we've come out with this policy on language, which we believe is about fairness and equality, we've received numerous emails of civil servants who are maybe employed but are not able to, go further within the department because the job requirement has become bilingual mandatory. And again, if it's in a bilingual part of the province where there's that ratio is there, and we have the demographics to show that, then yes, it makes sense. But if it's not there, again, we have to get back to a common sense approach to make sure that there is equality for both linguistic communities. Does that kind of answer your question?
I rest my case.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I'm currently in a French course, Petit Francais. I started last Wednesday, and I'll be going every Wednesday evening to learn French. We do have...
So what you're saying, I understand why you don't speak French to be the leader of the British Party in Brunswick. So you're saying if I go to Charlotte County and I have the government services, I shouldn't be able to be served in my language?
No, sir.
That's what you're saying.
No, sir, that's not what we're saying. We believe there should be bilingual staff in Charlotte County. What we don't believe is that there should be a 50% bilingual mandatory requirement in Charlotte County. That's all. We believe you should
So what's your percentage?
be based on demographics.
Well, there's 2% of the population in Charlotte County. You're saying it's 2% should be bilingual?
There should be people there to assist if a francophone were to go in to receive services. There should be someone there, yes, to
So
receive
if that person
service.
happens to be on sick leave or out for the day or whatever, then there's no right to serve a French in Charlotte County. That's
No.
what you're suggesting.
No, sir, no. We are suggesting that it should be based on a common sense approach. If it's 2%, I mean, we know, we can look at different areas of the province and we can see how many people requested service in English, maybe in French regions of the province, or how many people requested French and English regions of the province. So there's numbers there to support the case that we can reach the goal of bilingualism, true bilingualism in the province, without what we see today is quite frankly policy overkill in terms of how those things are done.
For a 35-year-old leader of a political party who's not bilingual, you are an exact example of why bilingualism doesn't work. Because if you stop in Sheboygan and you need service in English, you're going to get it, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
But in Charlotte County, you might not get it if you're francophone, and that's the problem. You're never going to have complete. You're never going to get rid of duality at any level until the Anglophone becomes bilingual with the francophone, until there's a commitment. And that's just reality.
And look, I wouldn't argue the fact that the education system in New Brunswick has failed in terms
It's
of...
not the education system. You can't blame the education system.
But again, like my son, I would have him in French immersion. That opportunity isn't afforded to him. So again, we also believe as a party that we have to have those opportunities there so that Anglophone students have the opportunity to learn French. Same with the French students, the opportunity to learn English. It's really about equality, it's what we believe. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, folks. I do again appreciate the opportunity.